Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Historical Gamer back for, what is it, part 7 now of my Buzz Aldrin Space Program Manager Soviet Union Let's Play. We're definitely ahead in the space race. We've done everything with the two-man space program with the exception of spacewalks. Still waiting on some research to be done on the EVA suits, or at least waiting on maybe some better research to be done on the EVA suits before we can really progress to the next mission there. We're also making some pretty darn good progress with the N1 program, the human moon rocket for the Russians. It's up to 82% reliability, so we might consider an unmanned launch to the moon with that rocket shortly. We've also successfully launched a few probes. Actually, all of the moon probes have been launched, including the Luna 15, which returned samples from the moon. We did the Lunar Impactor. We did the Zond 5 biosatellite, which actually was going to be launched, I believe, aboard an N1 rocket as one of the early test flights for it. We used a Proton rocket instead, which isn't human rated, but still a pretty high quality rocket. We don't have any available scientists right now. We also don't have any available astronauts right now. Everyone's kind of training and getting up to speed. We could go ahead and look at maybe trying that Mars probe again, since we are more or less without anything else to do right now. The reliability is up to 85%, so I think that's what we'll go ahead and do. We'll go ahead and schedule a Mars probe with our very high quality ground control crew here. You can see there we've got very good ratings for everybody, so we'll go ahead and schedule that. Here we are in quarter 4 of 67. I'm hoping we can get to the moon by the end of 69, by the end of the decade, the way that the U.S. did. But I'm not too terribly worried. The U.S. hasn't even advanced to the Gemini program yet, I don't believe. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Why don't we take a look? Let's see here. Goals comparison. We scheduled down here. Extended duration, we did that. 3, 4. U.S. hasn't done any of those durations. We got a man in space, so did they. Man in orbit, so did they. No one's done a spacewalk. We've done a joint manned launch, which the U.S. has as well. 2 crew space capsule, the U.S. has not achieved yet. So we're definitely ahead of them in that regard. We've got a whole bunch of extra money here, but I guess I can expand these facilities. I mean, nope, can't expand that anymore. Can we expand the astronaut facilities? Yeah, I suppose we can get more astronauts, and we can also go ahead and get more flight controllers, so that'll let us launch even more missions at once. There really isn't any need. We can upgrade this too. Now I'm just upgrading buildings for the sake of upgrading them. This one's already maxed out. This one's already maxed out, so. Yep. All right, so we're kind of maxed out there in terms of building, just kind of spending for the sake of spending with over $100,000, basically extra cash. So we're going to go ahead and end the season, and go with our Mars probe here, which is only up to 70% reliability for the probe itself. The Soyuz spacecraft, which is going to go to the moon, is getting up there in reliability, so that's good. The Luna 15, we can end that program. I forgot about that because we already did that mission. That'll free up some scientists. And then our human-rated 3-man spacecraft that'll go to the moon, the 7K LOK, is also making progress. Our lunar module likewise is making progress. We need to be making faster progress on our spacesuit, though. It's only at 56% reliability, and our docking platform isn't even to 50 yet. Mars 2 is making okay progress as well. So go ahead and launch this mission. It'll give us a huge boost in prestige if it's successful, and if it fails, meh, not much of a hit because it's unmanned. I think this is the 3rd time we're trying to launch to Mars with this program. If you've listened to my previous videos, you know I gush on the Proton K. I just love the look and the design. And you can see here we ran into a problem already, but fortunately it was fixed before liftoff, so that's good. We're down to the countdown, and here we go. If I knew Russian, I would love to speak it in these videos, but I don't. I feel like it'd be a pretty handy skill to have these days. You know, you could work for the intelligence agencies. It's always, I guess, been valuable, but it seemed like maybe in the 90s things kind of fell off a little bit. Maybe not. I'm not sure how the CIA's operations were during that time period. But certainly a renewed focus in it, I would imagine. That and Mandarin. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. So there our probe goes. It's deploying. And the Earth-Mars transit. This is where it failed last time. But not so this time. We got through the first stage. Our first launch to Mars had the same success. We failed the second season. Our second launch failed right away. So our third launch here is successful. Also gives us a nice big upgrade on the M69, which should be helpful in the follow-ons. The U.S. has opened the following program, the Mariner 6 Mars flyby, so hopefully we get to Mars before the U.S. does. Good random event. Apparently we're going to get reduced fixed costs for the next 3 seasons. And we've begun upgrading these facilities. And various people have graduated from flight control. So, all these buildings are still being worked on. We're going to go ahead and manage some of these programs. The Luna 15 is already done, so we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and end the Luna 15 program. Free up some scientists as well. I don't think we have any other. Looks like we don't have the biosatellite open any longer, so that's good. All right, so we've got, 2 scientists who are available now? I'm not sure. I guess we can assign them to the Venus probes. The Russians did launch probes to the planet of Venus as well. I don't really know what perk it gives us, but might as well. We don't have anything else we need to work on right now. So go ahead and open the program. Apparently it needs the 4,000 kilogram payload total mass for transplanetary injection. Proton KD would get it there. Proton K would also get it there. We've already got the Proton K researched. And then obviously our bigger rockets would get it there as well. Seems like it would be kind of a waste of money though. The Proton K is only 4,000 per launch versus over 6,000 for the N1, so I might as well go with this rocket, which is also much more reliable. We really don't have to research the Proton rocket. We do need to research the probe, though, which starts out at only 75%. So it'll be a little while before that's really ready. But in the meantime, we don't really have anything else going on at the moment. We still need to get our EVA suits up. So first quarter of 68, we're going to go ahead and kind of punt and just let our Mars probe continue on. You can see there our EVA suits are still only at 60%. Docking is kind of creeping upward. And, yeah, let's go ahead and resume the flight. Monitor it from mission control here as it prepares to orbit Mars. Succeeded past that stage, which was the Mars transit, before where it failed. Now into Mars orbit, so success. We have unlocked the Mars probe and earned 2,500 prestige, the first individuals to successfully orbit the red planet. You can see there we unlocked a few badges. Get an upgrade there. Whoa. The opposing faction has successfully accomplished the following. Apollo uncrewed suborbital flight test. What? The U.S. has launched an Apollo. They haven't even done Gemini yet. They haven't even done a 2-man spacecraft, and they've launched a successful unmanned. Ugh. Well, that's not good. I don't even have my. Eek. Well, the Soyuz 7KL1 is going to be our flight to the moon aboard the N1 rocket. I don't know if the N1's really ready, but the Soyuz is reliable enough, so we'll go ahead and do this. Basically, I'm going to use the Soyuz to get this capsule up into orbit, strictly for testing purposes, because if we can boost the reliability of this capsule, it'll make the N1 program more likely to be successful. So we'll go ahead and do this. Just assign kind of the best guys we've got available. Again, mainly to get a test flight successfully up with this capsule before we do anything else. I suppose we could orbit the moon right now if we wanted to. I mean, we don't need to do an EVA just to orbit it. But Yeah, so this will be a suborbital flight. First flight of this particular capsule. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to do at the moment. We've got a whole bunch of astronauts basically waiting, and we'll just have to go ahead and end the turn. So you can see there the Mars probe is making progress. Various capsules about to be launched, making slow but steady progress on our EVA suits and our docking, which are behind because I've done a poor job of researching, and it should be the final season of the Mars flight. So go ahead and resume that mission. Should give us a bit of a further boost to prestige. Success. All right, so now that that program's over. That particular capsule's not coming back to Earth. It's just going to kind of die in orbit there around Mars. A nice little boost to prestige there, 5,000. So that one's done. And then we can go ahead and launch our uncrewed suborbital flight of the Soyuz booster, again, for the first time we're launching that. Really, we're not going to do a suborbital flight with people in it. This is really just to get the reliability of the capsule itself up as we launch it from the very reliable Soyuz booster, which we've had a lot of success with already. Essentially, we're using a cheaper booster to test out the capsule and get reliability up in a more cost-effective manner, which the U.S. actually did in the Apollo program as well. The first manned Apollo space flight, the Apollo 7, was actually a Saturn 1B, I believe, which is much less powerful than the Saturn V rocket. The first Saturn V rocket wasn't launched with a human on board till Apollo 8 when they actually went around the moon. Although there was, I believe there were 1 or 2 unmanned flights of it prior to that. So we've got a problem here in orbit. Our flight controllers are working to fix it. And they succeeded. Good. So again, this is why we launched an unmanned test flight of this particular program to get some bugs worked out and reliability up. There we go, re-entry and descent. Success. The Russians really like landing on land. The U.S. pretty much always landed in water. Although they did have plans for a hard landing on land, they never actually went ahead and did it. So, successful test flight of the Soyuz 7KL1. Upgrade of the capsule. The U.S. has also opened the Pioneer Sun Orbiter. I have to wonder, they're opening a lot of programs. Are they actually making successful research on it, or are they just opening up giant programs for the heck of it? We also got a good random event bonus of 3,400 prestige, so that's good. Okay, so we've got several scientists who are free to work on other programs at this point in time. I'm wondering... I don't know what I want to do next. That's where I'm kind of struggling at this point. We can close this program. We're not using it anymore. Okay. Have we worked? Oh no, we're already working on our manned landing. This program's getting up there in terms of reliability. I'm not sure what to do at this point. We can't go to the moon without an EVA suit. I'm hesitant to send people there without one. Go back. I think what we're going to do, let's see if we can kind of rearrange our scientists a bit. We'll go into the spacewalk. R&D components. EV. Are we not working on an EVA suit? Oh no. We're jumping right ahead to... Going right ahead to the moon EVA suits. That's not smart. Well, this one should be quicker to research at least. That's no wonder we're having such slow progress on the moon EVA suit. So I've got 4 more scientists. This will be the N1. Again, we're working on this. This is a 3-man space program. It's the same capsule as we will have heading toward the moon. So I'm just opening it up, mainly so we can test it out. And in fact, I think that's what we're going to do. Maybe. Okay, let's do... we're going to do 2 test flights. We're going to do as reliable as possible with the Soyuz booster, an uncrewed orbital flight. Okay. Confirm assignments. And actually, I don't think we can do... We need more flight controllers, so we need to go ahead and hire some more. Ideally looking for people with some kind of expertise who can at least be passable at something. Cost is not too concerning at this point in time. I know I didn't max out, but those are the only guys really worth anything. Scientists are already worked out. Astronauts. Well, everyone's available. I don't know if we want... Do we want to send more astronauts to advanced training? I mean, some of these guys really aren't ready for anything anyway, so it's probably important that we send them there to do something. These guys are probably good enough. Or that guy is good enough on his own. Not all of these guys are good enough, though. A lot of these guys are pretty dang raw. Holy crap, 30s and like everything. Man. Some of these guys really suck. How did you get into the astronaut corps? Like, what the hell? Alright. Okay. Again, I'm not training everyone, just the guys who've got really low ratings, which is a lot of astronauts. Seemingly a bulk of my astronauts suck. So we've got all but 4 astronauts in advanced training for the next 3 turns, which is going to make going to the moon difficult. Can we do a manned orbital flight of that thing? Would we get a penalty? Yeah, we would. Alright, well, that's all we can do this turn. Let's just hope the US doesn't go crazy as we go into a crash program for that EVA suit. All this other stuff still being worked on. Where is that moon EVA suit? It's making progress, 65%. Just not quick enough. Go ahead and monitor the first orbital flight of this particular program, and then we'll go ahead and launch a manned program next turn. I might be overly cautious here, I'm not sure, but if it looks like the US is going to beat us, we can always take a risk and launch it, be super aggressive. think next turn I'll test the N1 rocket. I don't even know I'm bothering with this LK1. We could totally just skip ahead to the 3-man capsule. Use the Voskhod for the EVA test and then just jump right ahead. I think I'm kind of slowing things down unnecessarily. Our last mission did have one potential point of failure, which ended up being resolved successfully. I always like to have a few flights ahead of the actual manned flights, so that way we can make sure that, we don't get our guys killed, especially with the astronauts we have now, because these are pretty high-quality astronauts. But that mission went off without a hitch, so definitely next turn we'll go ahead and launch the guys up into space for an actual launch in the space capsule. The opposing faction successfully accomplished a lunar orbiter program, or started a lunar orbiter program, studied micrometeorites in lunar orbit, and the Apollo suborbital flight. That's scary. The U.S. has launched a suborbital Apollo flight. Didn't say uncrewed either. Suddenly we go from being ahead to the U.S. jumping ahead of us. So, this turn we're going to go ahead and launch the N1. It's going to be a orbital flight of the Earth. We're going to get the N1 up in this first flight of this mission configuration as well. Uncrewed, because if we put a crew in it, we're going to get ourselves killed. And yeah, I guess I'm totally abandoning what I was working on before. I needed to think that. I should have thought that out better, but alas, it's too late for that now. So it's going to be the first launch of the N1. I don't know if we have any. Do we really need prestige for anything else right now? We've got 9 turns till the next budget review. We've got better than the highest max prestige, so we're good there. We could go ahead and launch our second Mars flight, I'm thinking. Where's the Mars 2 orbiter? It's pretty high reliability. Might as well schedule that mission. Just why not? With our B crew, kind of. At least it gives them more experience, again, which we may need for the lunar flight. So we are going to go ahead and launch 2 missions this turn. I don't know if there was an actual lunar lander. I guess this is probably based on a historical program. But I feel like, I don't know, I just never realized that. I know I've got a scientist doing nothing, but I don't really know what to assign him to anyway, so much wasted time. What a great lead. Blown away by the Americans, who they haven't even done like a EVA spacewalk or anything. They're doing suborbital flights. All right, so we're going to go ahead with the N1 rocket, which had a illustrious career of 4 attempted test launches, every single one of them ending in a massive explosion. One of them exploded on the launch pad, destroyed the launch pad for 18 months. The Russians couldn't launch any, and that occurred in '69 when a bolt was ingested into the rocket motors and basically set off a small nuclear bomb. I think it was like a 3-kiloton explosion. So hopefully we don't have the same problems they had. Historically, the Russians had a problem with pogo isolation, which I guess is violent shaking of the rocket engines, which ended up causing damage to the craft and fuel. The U.S. actually had the same problem with the Saturn V rocket, except the Russian stage had 34 engines on it, whereas the U.S. only had 5. So when the U.S. shut down the one engine, typically that would fail because of pogo oscillation. It wasn't it wasn't fatal, whereas when the Russians, they got 30 engines they got to try and shut off. Much more likely to have a problem with it. The U.S. solved it by their later Apollo flights as well. So a failure in the KDTU engine test. 68% chance of it being fixed, and it is by my excellent ground crew. Module separation. Success. Re-entry. Which is really just another Soyuz capsule, so that should be not routine, but should be somewhat reliable. Descent and landing. Another failure here, 70% chance to succeed, quickly solved. Good to see. So again, good thing we didn't put any humans on here. Didn't totally fail, so that's nice to see. Definitely speeding up our program here, our timetable. With a Q4 success of the N1 rocket. The first attempted launch of the N1 was in February of 1969. This one, obviously, we beat that by a bit. And that one failed and exploded, and this one didn't. So a nice success there, and you can see here we're now doing our Mars mission. So we'll go ahead and get these guys up and running. Launch preparation, another Proton rocket. We've got multiple launches going on per season now. The Russians were the first interplanetary mission, but I don't know if it was a probe or if it was just like a satellite, like the last one we had. I'd like to talk a little bit more about history in my future videos. You know, I know that's something I keep saying. I'll be honest, I'm not a genius when it comes to, well, I'm not a genius in anything, but I'm not really all that versed in the Russian space program, just a little bit of research of what I've looked up. If I do an American series, I hope I can be a little bit more informative and kind of mix that in with my video like I have with some of my other more successful series like the Ultimate General series. So we'll see. I'd like to do that. You know, it's interesting. I haven't seen anywhere in here where you can have the first woman in space, but the Russians actually had that as part of the space race. I think it was in the 70s, early 70s. So a successful launch there. Good to see. All systems are normal, Captain. So there we go. Successes. Excellent. Mars 2 is on its way. And we are ready for the second test launch of our N1 rocket. We're going to do... We could do an orbital flight with a crew. Should we do that? 89% reliability. That's pretty darn good. 87 components. Schedule mission. Assemble now. Yes, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Capcom will have our best astronaut as our Capcom. I don't know what Ecom is. You can see here we're kind of running dry on quality guys as we get toward the bottom of the barrel there. It has 3 actual cosmonauts. One is the pilot. Leadership and piloting is important for him. Yeah, cosmonaut leadership and piloting is important for him. Flight engineer, I would imagine, I don't know, would that be piloting more important for him? Research engineering, I would assume, would be science, which would definitely be this guy. Why don't we switch this? I don't know if the flight engineer is the pilot or the commander. The cosmonaut's in charge, I think, so maybe I'm not putting my best foot forward. I guess we'll see. But anyway, we're putting humans on the N1. That always makes me nervous. So we're back to that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump ahead with one. Oh, yeah, we have scientists doing nothing, but I don't have anything to assign them to right now, so we'll just have to bear with it. Continuing our work on our EVA suits, which is slowly but surely progressing. We need to do an EVA spacewalk shortly, hopefully. Yeah, anyway, so making progress there. We'll just go ahead and resume the mission from mission control for our Mars flight, which is going to be making a landing on Mars here this turn. There's 8 turns, so I guess this is probably, if we're going to have a failure, I would imagine this is it. And fail. Mars approach failed. All right, well, probably crashed into Mars or something. Still, I'd rather that one fail than the human flight. Not off to a good start, though. All right, here we go. Oh, I'm so nervous. When you're launching a rocket that had 4 flights historically and every single one blew up, when you're putting humans on board that thing, that makes me nervous. Cool thing about the N1 is that actually the Saturn V was the most powerful man-made rocket to ever launch astronauts into space, but the N1 rocket actually it had more liftoff thrust than the Saturn V. So it would have been the largest rocket ever made in terms of thrust. Just never had a successful flight. Look at all these blinking lights of all these different individuals who are involved in this stage of the flight. It just gives you an idea of the massive amount of support that every single space flight had to have, especially as the flights became bigger and more complicated. And this is obviously a much smaller representation of the actual number of people working on space flights. You always see those footage of, down here, of all the computers and scientists who are all working back home to make sure that the astronauts were taken care of, that the missions went okay and were safe, and just puts it all into perspective. This was a massive undertaking. Yeah, it'd be really cool to see us do something similar. You know, I know NASA still does a lot of great stuff, but I really want to see us go to another planet or kind of work on further space travel, and I hope that we're on the way there. I mean, NASA needs a bigger budget. They need to stop having their budget cut, but uh-oh. No! Descent and landing failed. Catastrophic mission. Oh, we almost got there. Our parachute failed. No, we just lost 3 astronauts. God damn it. I'm sorry, Anatolia Erasmov, Sergei Dobinkin, and Vladimir Lakov. It wasn't the N1 rocket that doomed you. Well, folks, that's a bit of a setback. There was also a historic Soyuz capsule that depressurized, I believe it was during landing, which lost 3 cosmonauts. I think it was after the moon landing. I think it was like Soyuz 20 or something like that. And they all died, basically, the spacecraft. I want to say it either depressurized or, the heat shield failed or something like that. And they came down and they got to it and they were all dead. Yeah. All right, folks. Not a good ending. So hopefully we've got better luck next time. But we've hit a bit of a brick wall there. And the U.S. is making progress. Maybe we should have gone with suborbital first instead of orbital. But the N1 rocket didn't fail us. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.